She gave her only meal to a stranger. She tore her wrapper to cool his fever. She had no idea that the man she saved was the father of the richest CEO in Nigeria. And what happened next changed her life forever. In the heart of Enugu State, where dusty roads crisscross red earth and children chase tires barefoot under the heat of the sun, lived a young woman named Adaeze. Her name meant daughter of the king, but her reality was the opposite. No royal robes, no palace, just a tiny mud house with a leaking roof, a bamboo mat to sleep on, and dreams she kept hidden beneath her tired smile. Each day was a quiet war against hunger. She roasted yam by the roadside for anyone willing to buy. Some days, there were buyers. Some days, there weren't. But every day, there was struggle. And still, Adaeze never stopped giving. She fetched water for old women. She shared her leftover food with children whose ribs showed through their shirts. She would rather go to bed with an empty stomach than let someone else suffer. That afternoon, the sun was angry. The heat made the earth groan, and the villagers stayed indoors, hiding from the unforgiving blaze. But Adaeze was returning from the stream, balancing a heavy half-cracked bucket on her head. She was exhausted, her feet dusty, her body aching. And then she saw him. An old man sat beneath a mango tree, his clothes torn, sweat soaking through his shirt. He looked fragile, like the wind could carry him away. People passed him by. Some whispered that he might be a madman. Others didn't even look twice. But Adaeze, she stopped. Without hesitation, she dropped her bucket, ran to him, and knelt beside him. His lips were dry, and his hands trembled. She pulled the scarf from her head, dipped it into the water she had fetched, and gently wiped his face. She tore part of her wrapper and fanned him with it. She opened her bag and gave him the roasted yam she had planned to eat later. Slowly, the man opened his eyes and looked at her like he was seeing an angel. She helped him to her home, apologizing along the way for how small and rough it was. She laid him on her mat and placed a wet cloth on his forehead. She cooked rice with the last bit of pepper she had left. She stayed by his side for 2 days, bathing him, feeding him, whispering prayers at night, and watching over him like a daughter would. The man said little, but he watched her with quiet wonder. There was a gentleness in her that poverty hadn't erased, a kind of grace that couldn't be bought. On the 3rd day, he sat up and smiled. It was the kind of smile that carried years of pain and gratitude in a single curve of the lips. Meanwhile, in Lagos, the corporate world buzzed with panic. Pa Naji, the father of billionaire CEO Chuka Naji, had disappeared. He had gone to the east for a personal trip and hadn't returned. Calls went unanswered. The police were alerted. News outlets started to speculate. But Chuka wasn't just worried. He was broken. He had always seen his father as indestructible and a man whose presence could silence boardrooms and calm storms. The thought of losing him was unbearable. Weeks passed, until one evening, a battered taxi pulled into the Naji estate in Lekki. The driver stepped out and opened the door, and out came Pa Naji, smiling like a man returning from paradise. Chuka rushed out, speechless. "Papa, where have you been?" But instead of answering, his father placed a woven basket on the ground and said, "I met an angel." He told Chuka about the village girl who took him in, who fed him with what little she had, who slept on the floor so he could have the only mat in her house. He didn't describe Adaeze as poor. He described her as rich in heart. And that day, Chuka decided he had to meet her. 3 black SUVs pulled into the village days later. People gathered, wondering what was happening. Adaeze was confused when the men approached her, saying, "You're needed in Lagos." She thought she was in trouble. Her hands shook as she packed the only pair of decent clothes she had. She didn't even own a proper bag. She wrapped them in a scarf. When she stepped out of the car in front of the massive mansion, her heart nearly stopped. Marble walls, polished floors, guards in uniform. And standing at the entrance was Chuka, tall, poised, and intimidatingly handsome. He was expecting a different kind of girl. maybe someone who would be awestruck by wealth. But instead, she bowed politely and said, "Good afternoon, sir." When he tried to hand her an envelope filled with money, she pushed it back gently. "I didn't help him for money," she said softly. "I helped him because he needed help." In that moment, something shifted. Chuka had known many women, smart women, beautiful women, powerful women, but none like Adais. None who saw him as anything more than his wealth. None who spoke to him with such calm strength. He invited her to stay for a while. "Just so we can thank you properly," he said. But days turned into weeks, and slowly, like dawn creeping over dark hills, he began to fall for her.